Hello and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and welcome back to a brand new episode. This week, I am going to be continuing the adventure down the Obi Wan Kenobi series. This time around, we will be joined once again by Jordan Green. We'll be analysing the final episode of the series. I'd like to say sorry for the last episode where we both said there were 2 episodes left. There was, in fact, only 1 episode left in the series, which I can't believe, and that Obi-Wan is already over. We shall be going through the best parts of the episode, but also underlining some of the really important details that are beloved by the Star Wars community. One of the greatest things that I've seen from this series is how the Star Wars community has come together, the amount of memes being put out on the internet, the amount of high ground, low ground, hello there jokes. It's fantastic to see, and I think you can see on the podcasts not only my joy but also Jordan and the Star Wars community's joy in the production of this series and how well done it's been, put together, the predictions that we put forward in the last episode, and hopefully in this episode you'll see that continuation of appreciation for the depth and breadth of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Ewan McGregor has killed it once again. Hayden Christensen came back, and he can go back to his farm with a smile on his face, knowing that he made Darth Vader look extremely awesome, as well as putting the link between Obi-Wan and Anakin into the ground with a nail and hammer and saying, thank goodness it's over. But nonetheless, let's get started. Let's dive in. So, welcome to the show, Jordan Green, and let's analyse. So, I do want to, start off with a little bit of something that I found kind of funny. And I don't know if you noticed this or not. And this is like one of the first things that I saw in the episode was, do saber wounds not affect anyone other than Qui-Gon Jinn?
Well, I would say Darth Maul, but is it a wound if it goes all the way through you?
Yeah, my question is, like, Darth Maul survived. It seemed to be like Count Dooku and Qui-Gon are the only ones who've died from their wounds somehow.
Yeah, they definitely got the short straws there.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, because that's the first thing you see in the episode is, oh, look, the third sister somehow survived. The Inquisitor just straight like stabbing her through the stomach. You're like,
yeah, the Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor surviving as well. I was like, that's convenient.
Yeah, and you know what's even more convenient is that Rupert Friend, the guy who plays him, said on an interview that he got stabbed in quote unquote one of his stomachs. So the whole idea was that there's this like multiple stomach thing in him. Kind of convenient,
Figures.
Yeah, exactly.
I still was a little bit disappointed there's no Mace Windu, but what can you do?
Dude, I think that, if they wanted to elevate, and we talked about this in the last podcast, but I feel that if they wanted to elevate Boba Fett, you bring back Mace Windu as like some sort of like counter insurgent / like, half on half bad guy / good guy, and have him fight.
Maybe that is a thing that we might see in the next season of Boba Fett. That would be good. I think he'd probably fit more into that than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, Mace Windu, well, I say Mace Windu. I always say Mace Windu rather than Samuel Jackson. But Samuel Jackson has said that he will come back for the series if asked by Disney.
A few moments later.
Moving on, if I can, with the connection without interrupting me. I was going to say that something I found kind of like interesting is how badass Owen and Beru were, if that's how you say her name in the episode. Like, taking on an Inquisitor just single-handedly.
Yeah, that was one of my things that I did note down, because we used to see in them these sort of tame old farmers, the strict guardians of Luke, who were just keeping him in check, and they're out here like throwing crates and shooting first sister with blasters and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, badass. We don't see that a lot.
Yeah, man, and like on top of that, he gets a staff out, starts like prodding her with it. I was just like, God, this is high energy.
He managed to get a few blows in with it. He did smack her on the head with it. I thought, yeah, go on, boy.
He is related to Anakin, even though he isn't. It's like half brother stuff, isn't it? But it's there. It's the midichlorians.
I did think it was cool when is it Reva, her name, third sister, Reva?
Yeah.
When she said something about Owen treating Luke like his own or raising him as his own, and he turns around and says, "He is my own."
Yeah, I thought that was really nice. I think that's really important to the series as well for him to to say that he wouldn't have done this if he didn't believe it.
I think how both Luke and Leia end up with these families that really want them as their own and do raise them as their own is sort of testament to how much Kenobi and Yoda cared for them, that they would set them up with families they knew would be that loving.
And it works out, doesn't it? Because it's like the contrast to Anakin, where he was, taken away from not a great start to them being given the great start, which then allows them to grow into good people, which does say a lot, doesn't it? Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I suppose they were both more or less devoid of any dark side. Luke maybe had a bit.
And there is some pretty cool Star Wars content out there showing him being converted by Starkiller into the dark side, which I always, am intrigued by, and that sort of thing.
That would be cool. Apart from that one time when Ben Solo was having a bad dream, Luke's like, right, that's it.
Mate, this is where Disney really got the writing wrong. And Mark Hamill said it himself, like, it doesn't make sense at all. Luke's character is meant to be the above and beyond forgiveness, like he is willing to forgive somebody who's turned to the dark side. So it doesn't really match his character, does it? Overall,
it was a little bit out. I think quite a lot of things in the sequel trilogy were like that. Palpatine coming back was my biggest bug. Like, it worked, and sort of in terms of the storyline, it does make sense, but it's just wasted potential. They could have had a new bad guy.
Yes, Snoke really, I felt let down. That Snoke could have been something really interesting, and it was just like sort of swept aside,
Yeah, because they could have had like a Saruman kind of thing going on. They could have had someone trying to bring back Palpatine, like a new Sith Lord trying to bring him back or something. But it just felt a little bit underdone, undercooked.
Totally agree. And on top of that, the amount of Sith Lords out there that have such great detail. We've talked about this before. There are so many amazing characters that you could have even made a reference to. You could have made some sort of like Snoke was trying to be one of them, a very similar immortality. I don't know. I just feel that could have been just that little bit more attention to detail, which is the best thing about the Obi Wan Kenobi series, I think, is that there is that attention to detail. And bringing it back to this episode, I wanted to see from you what sort of notes did you see? What was your first thought when you saw the episode?
A lot of it was things about Vader still. There's a part where he said he's not just any Jedi, so he's putting his sort of personal grievance against Kenobi over catching the rebellion. That was quite interesting to me, because he's still serving Palpatine, he's got his own sort of errands that he wants to run and put ahead of his missions.
Yeah, I always found that really intriguing, because obviously Vader's original image of himself was the ruler, and he has to be the subordinate in this case in the rule of two. And so he does have this, side agenda. And I think you've latched on to something really interesting there, where he's like, Kenobi is the higher priority in my eyes, even though it undermines the Empire.
And then he sort of, at the end, almost lied to Palpatine and said, Kenobi's nothing to me, I serve only you, all this sort of stuff. I was like, yes. We know your game.
Exactly. No, but Palpatine also knows exactly how to manipulate him, which I found really intriguing. Using Obi-Wan against him in some ways to be able to solidify his loyalty to Palpatine.
There was another thing that I noticed. My notes aren't exactly in chronological order. They just sort of they're grouped into topic. So another one about Luke, when Owen and Brewery told him to run. music while Luke was running away, in part, sounded quite similar to Duel of the Fates.
Oh, okay. That's
So I've noticed
quite
this.
strange.
I've noticed this with a lot of the music, especially in the final episode. It will be like a bar here and there, but it's quite similar to music from the other films. Like when Vader arrives to fight Obi Wan Kenobi, the sort of motif they've given Vader sounds quite similar to the Imperial March in the first few notes.
Mm.
And it's just
Yeah.
nice way of tying it all together.
To be honest, mate, sometimes I noticed with Obi-Wan and Vader fighting, I got tones of the Battle of the Heroes a little bit, but I didn't realize that it was throughout the episode. I clearly wasn't listening that keenly.
I mean, it may just be a coincidence, but it seems too put together to be a coincidence. I don't think they would leave anything to chance because it's that well written. I think that would extend to the music.
Definitely.
It is cool to also see some agility from Vader, because we used to him just not regal but quite reserved, and he would pick his fights and you don't really see him move around that much. But when they're fighting, you see him really move around quite a bit, and he's got his fighting style changes since he was Anakin too, because he fights a lot with one hand and uses the Force a lot when he's Vader in the suit, and that shows a lot more.
Yeah, no, mate, that's something I picked up on as well. I was really impressed by the fact that it was almost as if he was still part Anakin when he was fighting Vader, which I found really intriguing.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, there was this, like you said, the agility, the use of the Force. Also, he'd learned from the previous fight, because there was a move where Obi-Wan tried to basically do a similar what's it called, where they D-guard, I can't remember what it was exactly, but he spins around, and it's the moment where Vader either punches or kicks him in the face, because he's learned because he does that to him in the Mustafar fight, and like obviously Vader's learned from that not to get hit by that sort of swing from his form, which I found really intriguing.
Yeah, I guess the like stunt and fight choreographers must have watched through those old fights to get an idea of how to run things and how to sort of lead on from that. Because like you say, it must show the characters learning from mistakes for continuity.
But I think that's really good. That like you said, the continuity, but also the effort put in by these stunt guys to be able to make Vader look more agile, to get Obi-Wan fighting in that sort of similar style to Mustafar, but at the same time, he looks a little different in how he fights as well.
So I know, I think with the Jedi, when they train, there's 7 different fighting styles?
Yes.
Or forms?
As well as the Sith fighting style. Yeah.
So yeah, he must have changed around with those.
Yeah, I believe that I think off the top of my head, Vader still sticks to the similar fighting style that he was as Anakin, but there's almost an adaptation of Form 7, which is the Sith style, but he still sticks with a similar form style to Anakin, but he's more restricted because of the suit. So it's a little bit more powerful swings, which he's adapted from the Sith style. So it makes sense. It's really good, like the connection between the two. I love that.
Let's see, it is just another facet to how well it's written. Well, not even just the story, but the movements and the details and stuff like that. I wonder if it was actually Hayden in the suit doing the sword fighting, because I know they trained a lot for it, didn't they?
I believe so. I believe that because if you go on IMDb and look at like the amount of episodes, you know, to the actor, credited to the actor, is that Hayden's in all 6. So I don't believe there were any flashbacks in episode 6. So that would make the assumption that he was Vader, as well as like the half-mast thing, which we'll get into in a second.
That was sick. Yeah, I think, because I remember seeing him, maybe it's some sort of interview or write-up, or at some stage leading up to the series coming out, that he wanted to be the guy in the suit, because he did the same thing with episode 3. They sorted him out stilts and they put him in the suit so he could actually play suited up Darth Vader. And I think they've done the same thing this time around. I was wondering if he did the fight scenes in the suit as well, because that's some serious dedication to the role. If so,
Yeah, I was saying in the intro earlier that he can go back to his farm feeling very proud of himself to dedicate such to the character itself. So I think the fans are going to love him even more now.
I hope so. I just hope this isn't the last of it. I hope he's back on for a lot more things, especially if Vader starts cropping up in any of the other series. That'd be good.
Yeah, if they want to bolster it, I think with Ahsoka they have to, because of Rebels, to have that continuity as well.
And I think like the Sith Temple fight from Rebels with Ahsoka and Vader, something more like that would be really cool, especially in live action.
Dude, 100%. I to be honest, even if they just recreated it live action, I'd watch it. As you saw
with that annoying animation style.
What with the tiny lightsabers?
Yeah, what the hell is that about, man?
There's a little bit of annoyance with that as well, isn't there? But there's also some really cool things in there where they've animated some of the Force beings, whereas there's like, things you can't live action create that actually can only be shown through animation, really in a accurate way. Like I think it's the forces of light and the forces of darkness. I think the brother and the sister. I don't know if you saw that episode.
And the father, yeah. I love that one. I thought it was so interesting because that's so far removed from what you'd ever see in the films. But it gives context and adds to the lore of stuff. Yeah, it's so surreal that it's like a whole new part of Star Wars.
Exactly. And we've been talking about, we predicted it in the last episode. So when you saw the mask come off when Obi-Wan sliced him, I was kind of like, just, and it is that resemblance, isn't it?
That gave me like proper chills. Yeah, when Obi-Wan addresses him as Anakin after the helmet is cut, and he says, "Anakin is gone, I am what remains." You see Obi-Wan tearing up, and I wonder if that was real tears from Ewan McGregor. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if they've been attached to those roles for so long, and if they're into Star Wars, like I feel like a lot of the viewers were getting emotional at that point as well. So it wouldn't strike me as odd for Ewan McGregor to be getting heated up over that.
It was a beautiful moment, mate. I watched it and thought this is the perfect way to make the bridge between Obi-Wan believing Anakin to still be in there to him just giving up on him and only seeing Darth Vader.
Yeah. He says, "I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it." And you see his eyes go really like glassy. But another interesting thing I noticed in that scene is that when he's leaving, he leaves him alive because he must still have these sort of attachments. But he says goodbye Darth instead of goodbye Anakin.
Yes.
Not Darth Vader, not Anakin, just Darth. And in episode 4, when he's old and he sees Darth Vader, he just addresses him as Darth. So that was like another callback, which I thought was neat.
It is. No, I spotted that as well, and I thought to myself that Obi-Wan clearly still has some sort of converting to do to be able to get to Alec Guinness's character from where he is, because there's clearly something that's matured him, which I think can only really be shown in Rebels, where Maul finds him in the desert. But that's a separate point altogether. I think that the fact that he says Darth is the true, like, nail in the coffin, Anakin's dead.
Yeah.
And the story he tells to Luke later on really comes into effect here.
It's like when I think it's almost a feeling of relief, but when Vader says that he killed Anakin and he says, "I am not your failure," because I think there's quite a running theme of Obi-Wan feeling like it's his personal failure that this has all happened. Like he went wrong training Anakin, and he let them down, and he let things get that bad.
Yeah, I think that's what stopped him from being able to use the Force, is that lack of balance, because you have to be one with yourself as well as with the Force, and that's like his regret, his thought process to thinking that he's the one who caused Anakin to turn to a Darth, or going into the Sith, is what stopped him from being at full power. Which is, I think you can see that resemblance when he's going through the memories in his head when he's covered by the rock.
Yeah, there's a lot of flashbacks through there that I think they help power him up a bit, give him a bit of a reality check.
Yeah, and also be able to resolve them within himself, because that's all the Force is just balance, isn't it, at the end of the day?
It would be, I think, interesting to see the father, the son, and the sister, because they're sort of omniscient, watching them watch that scene.
I think that because the whole point of that episode was to show that Anakin was the balance between the brother and the sister, but obviously because he's turned to the dark side, it might be that the brother now has control over the sort of siblings, because the father dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think personally it'd be good to see more of them in another series, maybe a Kenobi series, because I think that'd be the most fitted to it, because things like Mandalorian and Boba Fett and stuff, they don't really deal with any Jedi side of stuff so much. Yeah, it'd be cool to see some more like of the surreal stuff with Kenobi. I wonder if Yoda's going to have any involvement, because I know he's sort of very tucked away on Dagobah the whole time.
Yeah, it goes insane.
I wonder if he and Kenobi will have any further involvement, or if they're just never see each other again.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, is that, with Obi-Wan and with Yoda, they had a closer relationship in the Jedi Council, and yet we never see them interact again in numbers 4 to 6, because obviously Obi-Wan passes away. But yeah, it would be intriguing to see.
Yeah, because it wasn't even, neither mentioned the other. I suppose the prequels weren't written by that point, but they sort of fill in a lot of blanks left by the originals, so they would have still known each other.
True, and the ideas behind it is all prequel related material. So, like you say, it's hard to be able to fit that storyline in without having to have a new Obi-Wan series, without Obi-Wan traveling to Dagobah. I think that's more likely. Yoda stays on Dagobah, and Obi-Wan, because of his...
This is the thing, he's got another 5, 6, 7 years worth of time to fill up now before episode 4, so it's plenty of time to go on a little day trip.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think with the power of the rebels being, and when I say the rebel army, powering up over this period of time, it gives him more opportunity to be able to build the rebellion, because it gets bigger as we get to the New Hope.
I noticed another callback as well is, I think Vader said, "Are you going to kill me, Obi-Wan?" or something like that, and he said, "I will do what I must." Another Duel of the Heroes moment.
I like that as well, because I think it's one thing that's shown in Rebels that you can link here, is the fighting style that he starts with. Is Obi-Wan, when he's in the prequels, always uses the stance of pointing his lightsaber, sort of pointing towards horizontally, and then as he gets older into Alec Guinness, he's holding it vertically in a different form style, and you only see that when he's fighting Maul. So he uses the old style against Vader, and obviously defeats him, because it's like the same sort of semi-battle between the battle of the heroes.
I suppose as well, where he's been in hiding and not using the Force, not using his lightsaber, he's not trained in anyway, so he wouldn't have known anything different. He would just picked up where he left off, in a way.
but I love that. It's continuity. Again, one more thing adding to the stack of things that you point out in this series. And like you said, the fact that they found that, you know, the line between number 3 and this series is really well related. But I was going to ask as well, did you see that, you know, throughout the battle you see Vader get the upper hand, and like you said, he's using the Force quite heavily, and I'm always intrigued by that with Vader, is that he never did that as Anakin. He used, a lot of the time it was just purely saber work, and obviously becoming, you know, Vader, he's more mechanical, but it's meant to sever your link to the Force, which you said in the last episode, which I kind of found intriguing. You know, maybe that's one point knocked off for that.
I guess he would have become more powerful in time to sort of make up for it and pick up the slack. But also I think he starts to rely more heavily on using the Force to make up for how slow the suit made him. So he can't fight and do as much saber work as fast as he could when he was able-bodied. Is that what you say? But
yeah, able-bodied. Yeah.
He apparently Google had something to say about that. It just turned on by itself and started speaking.
Starts giving you random Star Wars facts, just chucking them in there. You'll find the kyber crystal was actually this size.
Talking of kyber crystals, I thought it was a really cool part on Fallen Order, when you can go into the caves and get your own.
Yeah,
that answered some questions as well. But I think when you see Obi Wan smash up Vader's like respirator units and stuff on his chest, and he starts wheezing and struggling to breathe, that I almost felt sorry for him.
You felt sorry for them. I felt like Obi-Wan was being a savage. I was like, this is the Obi-Wan I wanted to see. I was like, he's just purely targeting his weaknesses.
You never really see that side of him as well. Not fighting dirty as such, but just, like you said, being a savage. And you thought, that's not very Obi-Wan of you.
Yeah, exactly. He's only ever done that in against Darth Maul when he was angry because he obviously killed Qui-Gon.
Yeah, I guess. Could you see that as Obi-Wan showing a bit of dark side?
See, I always look at Obi-Wan. I never look at him as a character and think, does he actually have any dark side? Because he's like the one character who's consistently making all these right decisions. But you could be right.
So I guess given that the Jedi Order fell and it's not really such a thing anymore, did he let his principles go a little bit just for that?
Well, yeah, I think you might be right in the sense that as the Jedi Order fell, he was like the perfect representation of the Jedi Order, and that's why he was the message left to every Jedi out there, which is probably why, you know, that level of respect for the Jedi Order afterwards could be what's led him to a little bit more of a quote unquote darker side to him.
So I suppose there's been plenty of other Jedi who have been a bit more towards the middle of the spectrum, I'd say. Like Mace Windu, Qui-Gon. They sort of just did things how it would get the job done rather than sticking strictly to the Jedi side of stuff.
It's true. I do like the idea within the Jedi that you've got Mace Windu, who's naturally dark and therefore has a purple lightsaber, and he has to force himself to be in the light. And then you've got Plo Koon, who's naturally light and has the ability to tap into the darkness. I think those, you know, that should be made a little bit more of a point within Anakin, is that if he'd been given the chance to, you know, have Qui-Gon as a master, and this has been shown in the comics and, you know, non-canon stuff, is that he would most likely have had a yellow lightsaber where he is naturally light, but he wants to be able to tap into the darkness as well.
Yeah, I think if you'd had a bit of exposure to it, because where it was presented to him in episode 3 is, hey, you've been avoiding this your whole life, but if you want to save your wife, this is what you got to do. If you'd had a bit more exposure to it and knew to be wary of it and how to control it a bit more, maybe things would have turned out differently.
Maybe this is where we're getting seriously hypothetical and we start like throwing out some of the crazy theories out there. I think a really sort of relatable thing there, you know, we're talking about the darkness within Anakin, is that his home world is the place, you know, Mustafar, I say obviously Tatooine's his original, but Mustafar, his base, you know, this place of fire and ash and destruction is now his, like, representation. You know, Mustafar is such a cool place, but it's also where he lost everything. And so I love that they relate back to that in the episode, and we go back to his quote-unquote base.
I suppose it ties in with Palpatine giving him that suit that hurts and always makes him angry, and that sort of stuff is for him to be in a place of such hate and emotion keeps him strong.
And
keeps him
on the dark road. Yeah, Jinx. But on top of that,
was
like,
when
no, you go on.
You go.
You first. You're the guest here, bud.
Oh, thank you very much. I did like it when he said to Obi-Wan, "Your strength has returned, but the weakness still remains." So that sort of, he's behind that. He's saying that he's personally lost any of his remaining feelings of friendship towards Obi-Wan. So it's quite one-sided. You've got Obi-Wan almost thinking he can save Anakin or save Vader, but it's a one-way street.
I love that's such a good way of looking at it as well, because when you see Vader say it, there's no hesitation in his voice. When you see Obi-Wan say, "I hope you're," you know, there's moments where he's like hoping Anakin's still in there. But when Vader says stuff, he says it with such conviction that you're right. There's nothing left but Vader. There is no Anakin anymore. And that's probably why he's saying stuff like that, because he's now using the Sith way of life where, you know, affection, emotions that aren't dark are seen as weakness. You know, without strength, you're nothing, basically.
And it is who's dealing in absolutes, you know. There's no like trace of compassion left. It's, "You're not my friend, you are my enemy."
And from that we can see that he's completely, you know, turned Sith, and then there is no Anakin anymore, which is, like I said earlier, that bridge has been perfectly built from episode 3, where we're thinking to ourselves, maybe Anakin can come back to the light if shown, and then we see, no, there's no way back. He is Darth.
I think it would be good to still see more Darth Vader. I know we've been spoiled and shown a load already in this series, but just some actual Darth Vader stuff, maybe in the year or two after episode 3, just what he got up to, what they were doing.
No, I totally agree. I really want to see a little bit more of him taking command of going into these massive invasions, you know, where they invade these, like, Kashyyyk is a really good one, where the whole of the Empire goes and raids Kashyyyk. I'd love to see him in real time going in and leading the commands and just like destroying everything. That'd be so cool.
This is what I mean. Just, I suppose what we're saying is we want to watch Vader commit war crimes.
Exactly. I'm just going to pause you there, mate, because I've just noticed that the Zoom is going to time out in a minute. I'm going to quickly set up another meeting, and then we'll continue this line of thought.
A few moments later.
Hello there.
My laptop. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Dude, that is when every single Star Wars fan across the world started to cheer.
Yeah, dude, I was so gassed when he said that. I think we said this before, didn't we? They know how to give the fans what they want, and they must have looked online and seen memes and what it is people love. So for them to throw that in at the end there was just, that was a nod to us, you know.
Magnifique, amazing. Like, I was so hyped. Like, the smile on my face, I was just grinning ear to ear, thinking to myself, these writers, Dave Filoni knows how to get to the people. He knows what we want.
He gets it, yeah.
He gets it, man. Like, this is the thing. I think if Disney had done this with the sequels, if they just listened to the Star Wars community, everything would have been like, they would have created a franchise that probably could be, to this day, probably one of the most, you know, paid for, but also most loved. They would have had sequels that we would have said, yeah, these are actually high quality, rather than everyone going, oh, for God's sake.
But I suppose the danger with the film is that you do have to be quite concise. I know they could have still just done it better, but they have to leave out a lot to fit it into a certain amount of screen time.
It's true, but I will always point out the trilogy that did it. As always, the Lord of the Rings, like they did it in 3 films.
I was about
Peter
to say
Jackson.
that.
So there's no excuses. Sorry, Peter Jackson did it with a much smaller budget.
I got Lucy into watching Lord of the Rings with me recently. We watched all 3 Hobbits and all 3 Lord of the Rings, and it reminded me of that time where was it you, George, Johnny, and me. We watched all 3 extended editions back to back.
Johnny wasn't there, sadly. Like
Was he
that was
not?
the one time. So we're gonna have to do a reunion where Johnny actually attends this because he was actually in New Zealand at the time, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, that was it. Oh dude, I was flicking through Amazon Prime yesterday. Guess what I saw a trailer for?
You did, didn't you? You were like me. The rings of power, they're here.
Dude, I was so stoked. I don't know when it actually drops, but man, that is going to be good.
I am beyond excited because not only have we got an unknown cast, I thought something that was kind of funny that maybe, you know, I shouldn't have laughed at, but I saw, is that Bloody Henry? Like, is that the guy from the bloody hotel advert? Like, playing a hobbit. I was like, this is hilarious.
The skies are strange.
He's about to welcome us into one of his hotels and say, come on down, kids. Like, this is it. Oh dear. But like the budget, Amazon putting all of their wealth into this series, and also the fact that they've set it into some really remote places, not only in England but also in parts of all over the world. It should be a really in-depth series. But I have high hopes for it. And the fact that it's a TV series, like you just said a minute ago, it has the liberty to be able to use details and really get in, you know, sort of deep into the stuff behind it.
I don't know what their timelines are going to line up, but I hope it covers a load of stuff somewhere in as well.
Oh, they did mention the time of Numenor, so I do think that we're going to see some of the Silmarillion stuff being referenced.
Lost you there, because
Sorry, my internet connection here is terrible at the moment.
it could be
What was
reverse
it?
PT and not great either.
Dude, it's EE. I can't. Anyway, the point being was that they referenced Numenor. So if you read the description of in IMDb or on Amazon, you'll see that they're talking about the Men of Numenor making an appearance in the series.
Nice.
Which is, you know, Silmarillion territory. So let's hope that that is the case.
I've got high hopes for this one.
Maybe we should do like
a mini get together for it.
Yes, dude, we should totally do that. We've just gone off on a real tangent, I noticed.
Who cares? The listeners get what they're given. There is no.
But
this is the best part.
Quite a Taylor's Tales podcast thing to do. Just get going on it. Tangents brought to you by Chris Taylor.
I am here for it, mate. I endorse it. I will give you all the tangents in the world. I am Mr. Tangent. Mr. Taylor's Tales Tangent.
Taylor's Tangents. That could be a rebrand after 100 episodes.
All of my solo podcast will just be called Taylor's Tangents from now on. Oh dear. But we'll end the Lord of the Rings stuff here. But what I will say is this: is that there's one detail that the listeners don't know is that since I believe, I want to say either it might have been all of the sequels. I know for a fact it was some of the in-between Star Wars films, such as Rogue One. But we've seen a lot of those together, and that's always made it a lot more fun experience to experience Star Wars together with your friends. And so whenever I say these sort of things, I always want listeners and other people to do that instead of just watching it alone, because I know for a fact that, you know, you can enjoy it alone, but having a group of people who enjoy the experience as much as you, it just ups the ante. You know, it really does.
Yeah, that's the thing, because apart from the fact that like, it's harder to miss stuff and you can talk about different details, different things, it's like we do on this. It's just nice to actually enjoy something like that with your friends.
Yes,
Just actually
an
be
appreciation
together for that thing. Yeah, I think that's what I like about every time something Star Wars related drops in the cinema. We always just go up and see it together. That's become part of the routine now.
Mate, long may it continue. Long may Disney be pumping out the hardcore amounts of content that they're going to do. You know, at some point, if I do get into a relationship, this is going to become a problem where she's going to be saying stuff like that to me, saying like, "Why are you so obsessed with Star Wars and talking about it?" But maybe if you and Lucy can get through it, then I have hope for myself as well.
Yeah, I've made her watch all of them, so hey, maybe we can make it a double date or a triple date.
Good man. That's it, man. That's it. It's legendary stuff. Is that the art of persuasion comes forth when it comes down to love for Star Wars.
Part of the criteria as well. Wouldn't entertain someone who wasn't willing to at least give Star Wars a go.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that there's something for everybody. Like I do believe that even though it's a kind of a quote unquote nerdy subject, I do think that it is fun and it is a bit of a laugh. And if you don't get the memes, then I don't know if we can be friends.
Talking of nerdy, I've come to hear lately that apparently nerd is a slur now.
Get out of here.
There's that's what I said, but there's been some sort of thing about it following Comic-Con, and apparently people are getting upset by it, and it's not a thing we should say. But I just thought, you know what? I've got 1, 2, 3 Star Wars tattoos and a Lord of the Rings one. I've got a nerd pass. I can call people a nerd.
You get more than a pass, mate. You're welcome into the fold. You join us here, mate. Now. Oh dear. No, I'm not for that. Maybe I'll get cancelled, but let's be honest, I've said a lot worse stuff out there than this. The term nerd, it has been used since early 1980s culture. Let's be honest, it's not going anywhere. And if you're getting offended by that, I promise you now, you will have a very tough lifestyle going
Big
forward.
facts. Yeah, it's just not a thing to get offended by. I feel like if you're a nerd, you own it. You know, we openly say that's what we do. We love Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and just nerdy shit, man. Love it.
Dude, I take it a step further. When I say I talk about and I've made music compilations for anime, man. How much more nerdy can you get? Like, you know, it's really taken that step further. But at the same time, I like to think that I counteract it with some savage workouts that very few people who aren't nerds could probably get through, which is always fun to say.
Exactly. You're like a hybrid nerd jock.
Zero brains for both.
Dude, this working out thing, it's slowly starting to feel normal. I listen to your podcast and that gives me a kick up the arse. I need to keep doing it.
Good. Yeah, that's it, man.
Tough, man.
I think it's fundamental.
I feel better for it. Still waiting to see any big change. I think that's another thing. I'm so impatient with stuff. Normally, if I want something, I go out and I'll do it or I'll get it, and then I've got what I want within a matter of hours or days. But with this, it's taking that time to just keep grinding away and hurting away every day.
It is not an Amazon Prime delivery, my friend. You do not get it next day.
No, this shit takes time. It's getting there, but my God, does it take time?
It does, and because we're in our late 20s, mate, it becomes that much harder, sadly. You know, and my dad keeps telling me it gets even harder as you get into your late 50s/60s.
I think that's the thing. When you're a kid, you have to wait longer because your parents said so, or because you've got to save up a little bit of money you earn from chores or paper round or whatever job you have. Whereas when you're an adult in your 20s, 9 times out of 10, you can just click a button on the internet and then you've got what you want.
Yeah, and that can be a bit of a problem when it comes down to restraint.
Yeah, but I think it's teaching me. I've got into the world of bonsai trees as well, so I'm growing those, which takes
fantastic.
Apparently, that takes even longer than it does to get in shape. So I'm teaching myself to appreciate time.
Yeah, I've talked about it so many times, but the ability to find what you love and working really hard at it and finding the consistency to be able to do that, I think that's the meaning of life. I think that the meaning of life is you finding what you love and just doing it over and over again, and finding that healthy habit of balancing that out with, exercise and mentally tough stuff.
It is like you said in your podcast. You build these habits and they become a thing, and it is rewarding because you look and feel better, but it's also better for your health long term, and it's just another way of looking after yourself, future proofing a little bit.
Exactly. Now, I am going to have to put this podcast back on schedule because I've just realized we've done another Taylor's Tangents.
We did it. You need to get a little fanfare that you can edit in for when you go off on a tangent. You know, like the spoiler warning siren. You need a Taylor's Tangents trombone.
It's just literally just going to be me dancing around the camera, just going, "Way, here comes another."
Just something real ridiculous.
I think I've already got an idea in my head of what to do, but we'll wait until I edit this podcast because I'll put something together for it. It's always in the edits that I can chuck in the memes, chuck in the good stuff to make anything serious, unserious, because that's the one thing that I always worry about is taking myself too seriously. And that's why I love the balance of talking to people, because it makes you take yourself less seriously.
I don't think you ever do that. I don't think you're safe.
Well, that's good though. That keeps the ego in check. That's always that's a positive thing.
Yep, this motherfucker always smiling and laughing. You're always good.
Good. That's it. So back to the Star Wars Episode 6. I was gonna say you brought up some really good points about association between obviously Darth Vader and Mustafar, as well as him being encased in his suit. But is there anything that you thought that obviously you want to see Vader being in his terrible self and creating war crimes, like you said earlier? But is there anything that was missing from the series that we didn't get from Hayden Christensen?
I thought it would be cool for Vader to meet Qui-Gon's Force Ghost, because obviously Qui-Gon hadn't seen him since he was a kid, and he cared for him and saw all this potential. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what his take would be on look at Anakin now.
I think you're totally right, mate. I think the conversation would be so not toxic, but it would be really intriguing seeing what have you, the same conversation that he had with Obi-Wan, where Qui-Gon saying, "What have you become?" And him responding, "I've become what you made me. You left me all of these things." It'd be really intriguing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would be just dramatic, bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, to see how far Anakin is from his youth to today being Vader. That just like that huge chasm that would be between him and them.
Talking of Qui-Gon's ghost, when Qui-Gon's ghost appeared to Obi-Wan finally, and he's saying, I was starting to think you were never coming. Did you notice that's at Beggar's Canyon, where Anakin was doing the pod race?
Oh no, I didn't notice that. That's sick. That's such a good find, mate. That's seriously good. I didn't realize.
There's something else about Beggar's Canyon, and I want to say in Boba Fett, because obviously that was on Tatooine a lot. But yeah, that's made a few appearances in the series that they've been putting out. But yeah, the end of that episode, that they're sort of standing in front, the sort of final straight where Anakin and Sebulba are having it out. That bit, that's where they're walking into at the end.
That's one hell of a reference, man. I did not see that at all. Like that's strong from episode 1 all the way into Obi-Wan. That's crazy. But that, I think, was Qui-Gon sat at the end, or was he in the crowd when he watched that? Because I believe he comes up to him at the end, like when the pod race is finished and Anakin's celebrating, like he's there. So it's kind of similar in the sense that he's waiting for Anakin, he's waiting for Obi-Wan. Maybe that's the connection they're trying to make there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
but on top of that, he is the balance between, I think, Obi-Wan has to resolve all the conflict within himself before he can, like Qui-Gon said, you saw me when you were ready to see me. It's very intriguing, that view there.
Yeah, but it is quite strange because you'd think he was ready to see because of how many times he'd asked and how he was wanting to see Qui-Gon this whole time. But it's like you said earlier, yeah, he had to figure his shit out before he could see him, so he wasn't ready.
Yeah, and I think that's the progression, isn't it? The journey, the hero's journey, is that you have to overcome all of your inner demons before you can resolve and get to the end. There's always something to be slain. There's always been, a hit in the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's I think it's Joseph Campbell who talks about constantly that it's the similar journey that all human beings have to go on, or all heroes have to go on. There's a problem, you have to resolve that problem before you can go on to achieve your goal, basically. And that's a really simple, diluted down version of what that book's about, but it is very much so the similar storyline for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan has to get over Darth Vader before he can see, his future teachings, basically.
But he even at one point wasn't that worried about the future, because he says before he goes to meet Vader, whether he dies or I do, this ends today. So he's ready to throw it away.
It's, to me, that's kind of strange, because for Obi-Wan to say that, he's almost giving up on Luke.
I suppose that's how bad he wants to take Vader down. He's just no hesitation, no reservations, just going in and getting it done.
It's true. It's true. He's very good at decapitating people, but he's not very good at ending their lives, is he?
Yeah, he did. Well, I know he had to, but it surprises me that he left him just like choking out on the floor rather than trying to kill him and not realizing, like Vader did to Obi-Wan when he buried him under all the rocks and then left him. He thought he'd killed him, but he hadn't. You think it'd be a similar thing the other way around?
Maybe that's the difference between what makes a Jedi and what makes a Sith, is that forever forgiveness and leaving them to their own decline. Maybe I don't know. Throwing sort of ideas into the wind.
Yeah, Obi-Wan does say that to Rever at the end. He says, I can't remember exactly how he phrases it, but he says something about maybe strength being to do with knowing when to spare a life rather than take it. Because this was my final note, she couldn't kill Luke because she was having more flashbacks of Vader at the temple. Yeah. So she almost had a sort of redemption story.
I loved her story, and I think it's a really underrated one in the sense that she, throughout the series, I mean, I said I love going through and predicting stuff, but I did think that flashback right at the beginning gave a little bit too much away, in the sense that it did show that she was clearly going to be one of the younglings. It was going to be one of those stories, but nonetheless, it was really intriguing to see that progression from being nearly semi-murdered by Vader and then being murdered by him again, basically, from there.
Yeah, I suppose like a slower development of that arc could have been a little bit better. Like you said, they gave it away quite quickly. It would have given us more time to think about it or to wonder what was going to happen. But I still think the way they did it was good.
Yeah, and the fact that she didn't kill Luke and she realized that by not doing so, she was not becoming Vader, the very thing that would have created her down this dark path in the first place.
Do you know, I think would have been cool, and I say this all the time, but if Luke and Leia were to cross paths at some point and not realize,
that would be sick.
And not realize
I'd love to see that,
because obviously they ran into each other when they were adults and stuff, and they didn't know who the other was. But when you meet someone as a kid, and then by the time it's 10 years later, you wouldn't recognize them. It's like meeting again for the first time. It would have been cool for them to cross paths, not knowing who the other was.
Yeah, that could have been a deleted scene, maybe, where they have them go on Tatooine, like Obi-Wan takes her to Tatooine or something along those lines.
Yeah, I suppose ultimately he would have had no reason to take her there. Well, they would have had no reason to cross paths because Luke had never left Tatooine, because that's why he wanted to be a pilot and get away.
Yeah, what happened to going to Tashi Station and picking up those power converters?
We'll never know.
We'll never know. It never happened. Oh dear. But I think that's the best thing, though. I think they kept the storyline linear. They kept it, sticking to the sort of canon stuff. And as much as we want to have these crossovers, some of them just don't make sense to have in the series.
Yeah, I think they are fun as what ifs, but in reality, they just wouldn't really work.
Yeah, and I truly think that if you want to get some of these slight details, these references to the prequels, and you want to have these things, you will have to have some sort of basic storyline, but the add-ons have to make sense within that basic storyline,
which they've done a very good job of.
Because it doesn't feel like they've just stuck things on. It's not like paper mache. They've just like stuck it together. Like, that's all right. We'll deal with that afterwards. In editing, it seems really nice and clean in how they've kept it. And ending the show with Obi-Wan saying to Luke, "Hello there," was just exactly what we were looking for, and it wasn't too cheesy. I thought it was perfect timing. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it's not overdone. So like, if it became a catchphrase kind of thing, it would have been really, really cheesy. But for him to just wait the whole season and say at the end, it's such a minor thing, but also such a major thing,
Yeah, like you said, the fact that they know they've seen the memes online, they've seen what the Star Wars community wanted, and they were like, let's give it to them right at the end.
Yeah, all about it. They didn't do the whole meme though, because General Grievous wasn't there. But that's okay.
He just sprints to the desert to get those 2 hidden lightsabers. He just goes out there and he just starts digging up the ground. Oh dear, that would be brilliant. Someone make that. Someone, if this ever gets listened to in the future, I want to see memes of General Grievous running into the desert. Oh dear. But is there any last thoughts you wanna go into? Are there any last notes that you've got on the series, Jordan?
No, that's all my notes. I think we've used up all my tangents.
Yeah, I think that's our tangent tokens being slotted into the machine. I'm just going to have a look at if I've got anything else. Got nothing. Another classic. Nothing classic.
Can't resist a good meme.
Yeah, I was going to say that some of the supporting characters, Rupert Friend playing the Inquisitor was fantastic. Roken, who played the pilot / the guy who was getting, setting up the mini rebellion, was really good. There were some seriously good, background characters who you actually liked. And the only person I didn't like, which you can, question on me, was the fake Jedi. I always find him kind of, I don't know, a little bit wet when it comes down to acting, but that's just my opinion.
It was really just a bit cheesy. He's clearly a comedy role, and that obviously there's some funny bits in Star Wars, but that didn't belong. It was the wrong kind of comedy.
Yeah, it felt like it was a Marvel thing, sort of attached into there for some reason.
Like he'd called in a favor because he wanted to appear in Star Wars or something.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was like when Stephen Colbert went into The Hobbit and was that background character. At least you could say he was a background character than having the bloody lines being put in there. But nonetheless, that if that's the only thing we have to moan about when it comes down to this series, it's a great series,
Yeah, they did good.
They did good. So I think we'll end the podcast there on a positive note, is that they made some relatable characters, solid storyline, epic, meme references, and Hayden Christensen's back. Let's hope he's back for future series,
Yep, I meant that.
So thank you once again, Jordan Green, for concluding this epic series for Star Wars. I think we're going to have to create a series of Star Wars podcasts from now on, where you and me go through these episodes and analyze them together. How do you feel about that?
Star Tangents. I'm all about it.
Tangent tokens being created right now. So this has been a Tell Us Tales podcast. This has been Chris's Corner. I've been your host, Chris Taylor. Once again, thank you, Jordan Green, and we'll end it here. Goodbye there.
General Kenobi.